The Drought Minister insists the federal government's new cheap loans scheme won't give debt-stricken farmers false hope. The loans for farmers and agriculture-dependent businesses will be at the centre of a $500 million drought package to be announced in the next few minutes. 122 local councils will get an extra $1 million each under the Drought Communities program. The government will redirect $200 million from its Building Better Regions Fund to provide $10 million grants to individual councils for unspecified projects. Cheap government loans will be offered to farmers and regional businesses with 2 years interest-free. The Drought Minister, David Littleproud, told the AM program on ABC Radio the measures won't simply saddle farmers with more debt.
There's a viability test. Simply, you have to be able to prove that in a normal year, when it rains and in normal circumstances, you repay that debt on your business model. We're not going to put people into debt that can't afford it. That's the reality of the situation. That's the remit of the REIC. They have a responsibility, a responsible lending responsibility, to make sure that these people can afford these loans.
We want them to stay in our communities. We want them to help us with the rebuild, but they need to be able to sustain their business. And so having access to interest-free, repayment-free loans to pay down the overdraft until that money starts flowing through their cash registers again, we believe will make a difference to these small businesses.
Bridget McKenzie and David Littleproud there. And National Regional Affairs reporter Lucy Barber is in Coonamble in the central west of New South Wales, talking to people about what the drought package will mean to them.
I've got to say, people here are in tune with what's going on. They're interested and they've been talking about this announcement here this morning. The local mayor owns this cafe I'm in now, and he's gathered quite a few people, but also I think people stream in here for their coffees every morning anyway. And the reaction, I've got to say, is mixed. I think that some people feel that something is better than nothing, that small businesses being acknowledged through these concessional loans is a really good thing, because drought assistance does tend to focus on farmers. Local councils will be pleased that money is being redirected or committed to them. However, how that money will be spent is another question. Devil's always in the detail. I've actually got a primary producer, Dougal Bucknell, here with me, and he's got some really interesting things to say. Dougal, let's start with your view of, well, I guess the first question is, what was your first reaction when you woke up and read about this announcement from the federal government?
My first reaction was that, how many people are going to be able to actually get it? How much of it is actually stuff that's being rebadged and coming around a second time? If people can get it, which hopefully they can, and hopefully the small businesses can get it, but then is the situation going to be made sustainable, so this isn't just a band-aid to progress us another 5 years through our lives, or 10 years to the next serious time, and we all go broke then? So there's two parts to this. It's the part about getting us through this really tight squeeze now, which is caused by the drought and water management, and drought is water. And then there's the bit about, are we going to have the rules and the laws to make water sustainable forever?
Joe, one of the things we should point out here is that the businesses we're talking about that could apply for these $500,000 cheap loans are everything from a livestock transporter to a shearer, potentially even a corner store, as long as you've got less than 19 employees. They're the rules. So I guess we're going to have to see over time what the take-up is like. We do know that through the Regional Investment Corporation, which is a government loan-funded body, or it administers low-interest loans, and it has already been administering them to farmers, $2 million concessional loans. We know that the RIC, as it's called, will also be giving farmers these new cheaper deals on their loans as well. So $2 million at that same interest repayment arrangement. So it'll be 2 years interest-free, and then over the next 3 years interest only, and then over the next 5 years the business or the farmer will have to have paid back the loan altogether. So what you're saying, Dougal, is the question of take-up is one that we have to see. I mean, I think that we've got to point out that the RIC, the Regional Investment Corporation, has seen quite a lot of loans loans taken up by farmers in the last year since it started. So that's one thing. But it's the long-term question, isn't it, of whether businesses will be able to stomach the repayments.
The repayments, and whether the climate's here so that we can actually make the profits. Because if you don't make a profit, you can't make a repayment. And that's the problem. Is it profitable to be here? And in the long term, jobs won't be here unless businesses make more than it costs to employ someone.
And what do you think, though, about these other measures? So there's hundreds of millions of dollars for local councils, some of that money redirected, some of it new. That could be spent on roads, water infrastructure, mental health programs. You just never know. But is that a good thing?
It's a good thing for now to get us over this bad patch that we're in, if it gets taken up and gets used now. If it's something that's going to come in 5 years' time, like a dam or something like that, well, that's irrelevant to this debate. As long as at the end of the day that these communities exist, it's no point having a brand new road if everyone's left in 10 years' time. It's no good being unsustainable. That's the big thing that needs to be behind this. And really, this is a band-aid in that regard. It's a good band-aid if we're sustainable, and it's a band-aid, it's a shame, it's mismanagement if it's not sustainable. And that's where it comes back to water. Water is everything that drives out here. It's the Great Artesian Basin, it's all the inland rivers that go from wet country in the mountains to basically the desert out past Burke, out that way. If that's not sustainable, then you stop the water cycle. If you stop the water cycle, then you stop the rainfall, and that additional bit of rainfall is the thing that makes this country work.